Let's bring in New York Times chief White House correspondent and NBC News political analyst Peter Baker and former Biden 2020 senior advisor Alencia Johnson. Peter, both candidates there in Michigan today, home to some 200,000 Muslim voters. We know Israel's been a major issue where progressives and Arab Americans want to see VP Harris charting a different course from President Biden. So with Hamas's leader dead now, does she have a chance to do that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question whether she can pivot a little bit. She probably won't do anything that seems to be a direct contradiction to President Biden's policies. She's made very clear she doesn't want to do that, not just on Gaza, but on any, significant policy issue at the moment. She wants to be seen as loyal to her president, even as she's trying to distinguish herself. But I think it does raise the question of whether she can at least make an emphasis about the need to end the war, whether she can take what President Biden just said, as you showed him on the tarmac in Berlin, and expand it to that audience to say, look, it's our administration that wants to free the hostages and end the war in Gaza, and explain to those voters who may be skeptical of her that she will be better on the issue that they care about than Donald Trump. But that's been a hard sell up until now, and she's walking a very, very tight line here between loyalty to the president and trying to appeal to these disaffected Democrats.
Alencia, even as Trump says he'll reinstate the Muslim travel ban, he says he won't allow refugees from Gaza into the country, Republicans still are seeing an opening with Arab American voters, especially in Michigan, similar to how some Hispanic voters are breaking for Trump despite his harsh immigration proposals. How does VP Harris counter this with just a couple weeks left?
Listen, I think she continues to do what this campaign and she has been doing, which is having open conversations with the community leaders and listening to them and being in Michigan and being present. I also think, too, yes, Donald Trump has opened an office in a heavily populated area in Michigan, but my conversations with a lot of uncommitted voters, Arab American voters, Muslim voters, they don't necessarily see Donald Trump as the answer. And so to me, it seems as though it's a waste of time and energy for Republicans, because Donald Trump has said that he could decimate Gaza, right? He has said extremely harsh things and criticism. So it is interesting that they are trying to engage a community that, quite frankly, Donald Trump has shown for his position on in the Harris campaign. In contrast, as I mentioned, will continue to talk to these voters and talk to these communities about what they need and how to be in partnership.
Peter, let's talk about some new reporting in your paper when it comes to the Trump campaign. Various Trump allies and advisors think the former president's increasingly rambling appearances at the end of this campaign are becoming a liability. On one hand, this is Trump being Trump, right? Is it a liability?
Well, look, it is Trump being Trump to some extent. People obviously go to his rallies and expect him to be, entertaining in a way, and they see the sort of rambling and sometimes incoherent performances as part of the shtick. But I think that he has, in fact, demonstrated change in the last few years. We spent a lot of time going back and looking at rallies over the last 10 years and noticed that his speeches, his rallies have grown longer, more incoherent at times. He uses more all or nothing language. He uses more profanity. These are all signs in theory of an aging candidate. And the politics of age have been flipped, right? He had President Biden on the other side of the contest for a while, and he could focus on Biden's issues in terms of capacity and frailty. But now it's Trump who's the oldest candidate in the race and would be the oldest president in history if he wins and finishes out a second term. And so I think there are concerns about whether or not he is up for the job. And you see that reflected among some Republicans who are supporting him, worried that he's not showing the same capacity that he once did as he heads into this final stretch.
It's certainly something his opponent wants to highlight, Alencia, as we've seen the vice president repeatedly calling Trump unhinged, unstable, and she just dropped a new ad focusing on that. Watch.
If he wins, he'll ignore all checks that rein in a president's power. It's all in Trump's Project 2025 agenda. A second Trump term, more unhinged, unstable, and unchecked.
We are down to just days left in this election now. Alencia, is this their best closing pitch?
Listen, I think it's an incredibly smart strategy because not only does it encapsulate everything that not only Democrats have talked about with Donald Trump, but Republicans who are not voting for him. The fact that he doesn't have any of the, still living Republican presidents campaigning for him. It is because he is unhinged, unstable, and these are things that people who served with him in his administration will also say. And it is a key strategy because, quite frankly, it's getting under Donald Trump's skin, and he is taking the bait, and he is becoming even more unstable when he's hearing these attacks and when Vice President Harris continues to call him weak, as she has been doing in her interviews and on the campaign trail. And so I think it's a really smart strategy because, again, it throws him off his filter and it focuses him on these attacks versus him trying to talk about policy. But we know that Donald Trump never talks about policy because he only has concepts of plan.